Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. I am kind of testing out a new technology here. So I apologize if there's a little bit of a glitch here and there, but it works. And I'm going to try to keep right on point, and I'm going to get going because it is 9, and I want to respect everybody's time. According to my side, there are 11 people on the webinar, which is awesome. Thank you, everybody, for taking time to come on. What I'm essentially going to do today, and just a little bit of history, is on and on for the last 5 to 6 years, I have done these webinars. And the point is, at least in part, to be able to answer people's questions. I run a tutoring company. Most of you probably know that. I work with about 60 families locally and about 30 all over the United States and actually in Europe a little bit too, consistently, and then hundreds just on a ad hoc basis. And there's a lot of questions that come up commonly. There's a lot of things people aren't sure about, and as the kids get older, you run through different phases. So one goal of this whole process is to have a forum where people can get some questions answered, feel like they've got a place to go to get what I hope is reliable information, and hopefully that will translate. At some point, if you need help, you got a good source to do it. So as a matter of introduction, I'm proud to tell you I'm an author of a book called Maximum Education. Maximum Education's goal was to teach 3 very simple principles: time management, information management, and having a daily action plan to put it all together. And probably half of these webinars are going to be based on that type of principling. The rest is going to be a smattering of all things topical in the education world: how to study for SATs, ACTs, college admissions, things like this. So let's just get down to it. I always put this up here first. This is how you can reach me. And just as an aside, this webinar is being recorded. Probably by tomorrow morning or afternoon at the latest, I'll have it posted up so you can rewatch it or share it and such and such. Normally, we don't have these things on the side. I'm not sure why they are there, but this is my office number, 215-540-TEST. That translates to 8378 on the keypad. MakeTheGrade.net is my company's core website, and the MaximumEducation.net is the site specifically for the book. And if anybody wants to schedule an appointment, you can do it actually on either site if you have anything you want to talk about. So let's talk about some educational objectives that I have specifically to do these when I'm doing these webinars. I'd like to go over some of the principles of maximum education as I think of them. I've sold somewhere between 14,500 and 15,000 books. I don't get super accurate feedback from Amazon and some of the other places that sell it, but I know that people use it, schools use it, homeschooling families use it, and not everybody applies the principles exactly the same. So this is an attempt to get it straight from the horse's mouth as it was intended to, but there are 3 main tenets: 1, time management, information management, and then creating the daily action plan. Each one of these has a lot of smaller pieces to it, as you can imagine, and the order is important. You got to be able to manage your time, then the information, and then you put it all together in a daily action plan. What I would like people to be able to do with these webinars is come away with some things they can put in place, just theoretically tonight, but certainly right away. This should not be a long, involved learning process. The goal: better academic performance, better grades, more confidence, ease, less stress as a student, as parents, as families, higher SATs and ACT scores, and I'm proud to say a very strong track record with both of them. And people come on the webinar will get some insider info and some tutoring. I'm going to give away some stuff on these webinars that I won't do through social media or my email listings or things like this. So that's my way of thanking people for taking the time to come and share on these webinars. So let's talk about time management a little bit. And tonight, if you haven't figured out already, is going to be kind of a broad overview. Starting next week, I'm going to drill down on these things a lot more. To me, time management, and this is not unique to the educational world, but centers on having a plan. So you got to create the plan. Maybe even more importantly, you have to work the plan. Then you have to have a timeline to have it in place. So it doesn't have any good to have a plan that you work that takes 3 times longer than the time you have allotted. So we have to be mindful of how are we going to put a plan together for a student. I'm going to talk specifically at that level, who has whatever academic challenges, or maybe they just don't have a lot of time. Their just schedule is very, very loaded up, that they can actually utilize and have it work on a daily basis, a short term, a weekly basis, and then the longer term, typically with projects and exams basis, like a month. The whole key, as I see it, is prioritizing. You got to decide what's the most important, and you have to consistently apply that. So that's the time management piece. The next piece is the information management. And there's actually a little bit more to it than I put in the slide, so I apologize. But at any rate, information management, the way I'm going to teach it, has to do with processing, which in some cases can be an awful lot of information. The big split is, are you going to do it offline? Historically, in notebooks, flashcards, things like this, or the new way is online, Google Documents. My kids in school, everything's on Chromebook. But it all comes down to taking big amounts of information and paring it down through outlining, through note-taking, through information management into much more useful and efficient ways of dealing with it. A lot of kids I work with from tutoring tell me, hey, I don't really have a problem with the information. I get it. There's just so much of it that I have trouble remembering all of it, or I have trouble knowing what's more the important stuff. So it isn't always the content that gets them, it's the volume of the content. So this is where information management is really important. And then that puts it with the daily action plan. So the daily action plan would be taking your time system, taking your information management system, and putting it all together for a structure for success. And that's really the goal of maximum education. That was the whole purpose, the whole objective of the book, was to have a daily action plan so you maximum utilize your time, your information, and then you have a rolling over. So you have stuff you need to do Monday, you know what's coming up Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you know what's coming up next week. My job as an educator and a tutor is to create accountability. So if I'm working with a student, or if you're a parent with a student, we need to know on both ends. Students have to know the parents know what they have to do. Parents have to know what the kids have to do, so you can create a harmonious and not an antagonistic situation where everybody's helping each other. So that's really the goal. So the daily action plan is really where the rubber hits the road. But in my mind, it's tough to do if you don't have time management and information management in place, and you don't have some level of accountability to make sure that it's happening. So what can maximum education and make the grade tutoring do for you? Better use of time, better management of information, which results in better grades, through a whole different process, but it's the same ideas, better SAT, ACT scores, better confidence for the students, and that's the goal. Goal is ultimately success for the students. So what I'm going to do, I went through this about the amount of time I wanted to. I want to give more time really to open this up and take some questions and things like this. If you're on the system, there's 2 ways you can ask a question. There should be a tab towards the bottom where you can type in questions, or there should be a tab along the side where you can type in comments. I'd be happy to answer any of them if there are any. So we'll give a second or 2 for that to kind of percolate through and go from there. So let me see if there's any questions I have to come over and check. And it looks like, Yeah, here's our first question is, where do you recommend, or do I recommend, the best place to get started? Okay, well, that's really actually a very good question, because one of the challenges um, is trying to assess where students are. And it's um, it's difficult sometimes, and it depends on a lot of different things. So let me try to get right to this. You need to meet a student where they are, and you have to also have to look at the endpoint. So let's say we have an SAT program we're trying to plan, and we know somebody's taking a test March 11th. We have 6 weeks to handle that. First phase would be assessment. What are they good at? What are their challenges with? What do they need to work on? And um, the second piece is where are your goals, and then we see what's the gap. So if somebody comes in and their assessment test is at 1050 and they need a 1200, we have a gap. In an academic sense, let's say somebody comes in for algebra work, and we know they have a test in 2 weeks. We got to figure out where their issues are, content-wise and execution-wise, going in and break that down into smaller pieces for the next piece. So short answer is, where do you start? You got to start where you are, which sounds a little existential, but the point is you have to be aware of your weaknesses and your strengths so we can address them. Second question, how much time should a student spend on homework and organizing their work? Ah, I presume you mean this daily as opposed to annually. Um, Ultimately, I would say maybe 15 minutes organizing, and the rest doing homework. The way my system is designed is you always start, the first way you start homework is by getting organized. What do you have to do? And get it all in one place. And then use that as a launching point for how you're going to set up your day or your afternoon or your night and whatever you're doing. If you have a copy of the book, there's all sorts of tables and charts and exercises you can do in the book to help you set this up. But to answer the question simply, I would say if you figure a student's going to have an hour and a half to 2 hours of homework a night, which I'm sure is a huge spread, probably the first 10 to 15 minutes should be the organization phase and the rest getting it done. The most common issue I see with homework is people starting it, students starting it, getting half done, then going into another class or going and getting something to eat or whatever. And the easiest solution is do one thing, get it done before you move on to the next thing. Not always as simple as it sounds, but that's a little bit idealized. So that would be my answer to that. Let's see what the next question is. Okay, here's a good question too. Thank you. Thank you for that last question too, Jody. Question is it possible, or how, let me rephrase this because the way the question is asked. How independent should I allow my student to be? Okay, well, I think that's going to be an individual decision within each household. Obviously, as children get older, they need to be more independent. A high school junior or senior really should be almost completely independent. Fifth or sixth grader, you're going to have need some parental oversight. But I think generally our end game here, if you think about it, is developing strong, confident students who, when we ship them off to college, we feel confident they're going to be able to handle the independence and the workload that's required there. So if you're not letting them do it in 12th grade, why would you expect them to be strong with it the following year if they're not able to? So I think, in my opinion, the sooner that you feel a child is able to work independently, you can let them do that. I think as a parent, you always want to look at what a kid's got. I don't know about 100%, but almost every school I deal with has some sort of online site, access center, whatever they're calling them, that you can go to and see the kids' grades and whatever homeworks due and things like this. So you don't have to necessarily get into a kid's notebook to see what they've got and what they have to do in order to oversee what's going on. But with the end game being sending them off to college, and you want them to be independent with their time, with their information, and with their daily plan, all the maximum education pieces, certainly we want them to have that sooner than later. Okay, anyone have any other questions? Because I'm going to keep this short. My goal, and like I said, just to wrap this up, is to try to keep this pretty much right on point. I think a half hour is a tremendous amount of time that people can devote to these. I appreciate all the people that came on tonight. I'm happy to take a couple more questions if you have them, but I want to try to keep this certainly less than a half hour each week. That way, if you come on each week, you don't feel like you're putting a lot of time out of everything else in your life. So here's what's ahead. Tonight was mostly of an overview sort of nature. Starting next week and beyond, and I'll probably advertise this, or it'll be in the emails and such, I'm going to start to drill down into certain topics. I'm probably, I may change my mind, do time management next week, information management the week after that, but I may flip-flop them. I've also got several guest speakers I'm going to bring in who are more specific in their scope of their work, and I would consider experts in their fields. I deal with educational funding, which is a big elephant in the room if you've got a kid going to college. The actual application process, which I do, but there's people whose entire caseload is based on that. They got a lot to say. The essay, a lot of opinions about the importance of the college essay. Is it super important? Is it unimportant? Updates on standard tests like the SATs and the ACTs, that whole cycle, timelines, and probably most importantly, I am happy to talk about any topic that's relevant that anybody wants to suggest that you feel is important. The last webinar I did before I took a hiatus at the beginning of the summer was on the college essay, how to plan it, because people knew if you have a junior in high school now, they should be working on college essays at the latest this summer. But with everything going on, nobody knows where to start, where to even get the topics. So we went over that, and that was based on a suggestion from a parent. So it was really good. I actually got some excellent feedback from it, and we went from there. So let me throw one last slide up here. Feel free to connect with me. I probably should have put, I don't know if I can change it now, my Facebook connection up here. Let's see if I can get that up here. There we go. So feel free to friend me personally on Facebook. There's also a Make the Grade Facebook page, which is that one. That's the Make the Grade page. And there's a lot of conversation on there, a lot of place for feedback. My goal, ultimately, is to create a community where we can share ideas. I don't necessarily want to come across as an expert any more than I am, but really more facilitate what's going on to be able to help people with this whole process. So, all this said, let me put this on here. There's me. Hi, everybody. If you've never met me, this is what I look like. The lighting here isn't too good. It looks like my hair looks like it's silver. But listen, I appreciate everybody who came on here tonight. Okay, here's another question that just popped in. How can a student prepare for SATs, ACTs while staying on top of their schoolwork or they're holding a job? Wow. Okay, excellent question. See it all the time because students are busy. I mean, I got my own kid. I have a kid who's a senior. He's up 5 in the morning for baseball. Goes to school at 3. Has practice again. Does a couple of heavy-duty classes. Sarah, my short answer is time management and planning. You got to decide what's the most important thing. Obviously, you have to be in school from 7 or so till about 3. I'm not sure what your child's workload is in terms of hours, but you got to set time aside structurally. In your circumstance, what I usually tell the student is make it something you do every day at the same time. So, for example, let's say student goes to school, comes home at 3, then works from 3 to 6. So maybe 7 to 7:30 is your SAT time. and you stick with that. And what you can't do, which doesn't work, is trying to get a situation where it's random. So, oh, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to go to work, and then I come home. I don't feel like doing SATs now because I'm hungry, or I don't feel like doing SATs now because I've got something else to do, and then they're going to watch something on television. So my main tip is set time aside, same time every day, and use that and say, okay, this period of time is our SAT prep time. If you chose to work with a tutor or a tutoring circumstance, I would facilitate a lot of that. I would say, here's what we got to do Monday, here's what we got to do Tuesday, and things like this. So hopefully that answered your question. Got one more question. They're all flooding in now. Thank you. If your student is a junior, when should they take their first SAT or ACT, and how many times should they take it? Do the scores get averaged? Okay, let me address that one at a time. You can start taking an SAT or ACT as early as September of your junior year. Old days, back when I was in high school, back in the Stone Age, really nobody took these tests until March. The season was March to May. A lot of parents are in the same generation as me and think the same thing. Over the last 10 years, 5 for sure, it's really gotten sooner. 85, 90% of my caseload for SAT and ACT take the test in October or November or December. Definitely by December, everybody's taken it once. So I would answer this by saying, I would certainly consider and recommend taking one test, maybe of each, in the fall. So maybe you take an SAT in November and ACT in December, or vice versa. Keep in mind there's a PSAT, which is a whole another exam, which is always given in the middle of October. So that's when I would start. That way, by the Christmas winter break, you've got your SAT score, your ACT score, and likely your PSAT score. How many times should you take it? Basically, you want to keep taking it till you get the scores you need to get into college. Before I was talking about the end game. Our end game here is to get into college. There's a lot of things that go into that, but some of the biggest ones are your grades and your test scores. So if you need a 1,300 and you got an 1,100, you got to just keep taking it. The scores do not get averaged. If you take the SAT multiple times, typically the schools are going to look at your highest score. Now there is a concept called super scoring, where they'll take your highest math and your highest reading or whatever and kind of combine them into one test. Not every school does that. There's no obligation for them to do it. Some do, some don't. So basically, the goal is to hit your best numbers in 1 week. Last thing I'll say on this is most of the students I work with take these tests at the most 4 times. 3 to 4 is probably an average, and that's a combination of SATs and ACTs. So statistically, people tend to plateau after their 4th test. Not 100% true, but nationally, that tends to be the trend. So it is 9:26. I got time for one more question. While I'm waiting, I want to thank everybody that's here, and thank you for taking time. Everybody stuck it out. 100% retention. Give yourselves a hand. What's the difference between the SAT? Okay. There's a long question. All right. Somebody just asked, and this is a common question. What's the difference between the SAT and the ACT? I should probably just do a whole half hour on that because it warrants it. But quick answer. They're both about 4 hours long. They both have math. They both have reading. They both have an English/writing section. That's the same. The ACT also has a science section, which is kind of a differentiator. Here's probably how I would describe it. In fact, the kid I work with tonight said the same thing. The ACT, the questions tend to be much more straightforward, and they tend to be presented like students are used to seeing them in school. SAT pulls in this logic reasoning piece where they have these convoluted ways of asking questions, which involves a reasoning, quote unquote, reasoning component. Flip side is the ACT, your pacing is much quicker. So you have to do a lot more in less time with the ACT than you have to on the SAT. So I know I could go on about that. I do 75-minute presentation at the library here on that every year. So I can't really give that full justice in a minute. But if there's sufficient interest, and there probably is, we can do a whole webinar just on that. So actually make a note to myself, just forget. This is a great idea. Thank you. Okay, so anybody has any questions or feedback, I'm going to shut this down and shortly. I will put up a link to this if you want to watch it again or share it. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me or whatever. Once again, here's the where you can get to that. I was not doing it or whatever. I'll figure out the technicals of this in a second. So that's it. Thank you again. I'm doing this every Monday night at 9 Eastern Time. According to my log here, there's 6 of you from the East Coast, 2 from the Midwest, and 1 from the West Coast. So welcome. I don't know what state you're in, because I know you're in the West Coast. Thank you. Thank you for taking time to come out. Thanks again, everybody. Stay safe. The weather's been really nutty where I am today. Very, very windy. So be careful. Batten down the hatches. And hopefully I'll see you all next week. Oh, one detail. This webinar will always be free. I do obviously make a living tutoring, but not through these webinars. So if you want to come on the next one, you do have to register each time. The link is the same. You just pick a different date. Somebody asked me about that earlier today. So thanks again. I'm going to shut this down, and I'll see you soon.